Joining us now is a man who opposes any deal with the Democrats, Congressman Keith South. Great to have you with us, Congressman, on the Great America Show. Kevin McCarthy reaching out across the aisle, trying to apparently work with Marxist Dems to avoid that government shutdown. You even have Republican senators who are talking about McCarthy possibly crossing the aisle. Your thoughts?
Well, I was encouraged as of last night's conference meeting, but today I have to agree. If we can't pass the DOD bill, we're going to have to find a way forward because we must pass the appropriations bill. So we have 8 days left before shutdown, and we need to get after this and get it done.
Well, get after it and get it done. It's been 365 days since we saw this little theatrical process go forward. We then had this spring the debt ceiling argument. I mean, every Congress that in my career has had to fight over the budget. So as Congress limps toward what some are saying will be an absolutely guaranteed shutdown, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think we need to support the movement, and we're trying to decide how best to do that. But there is a movement across this nation, Lou, of people that are so frustrated with the federal government. They're frustrated with the spending. They're frustrated with the inflation that's been inflicted on them. They're frustrated with the weaponization that is targeting them. They're frustrated with the two-tiered system of justice. And I'm trying to decide how we best support, how we encourage this movement across America. It may not be what people think it is, but we've got a committed group of conservatives that are looking for that answer.
Well, that's music to my ears. Now the question is, what does the movement want, and what will the Congress deliver?
Well, I will tell you, in my telephone town hall just 2 nights ago, the shutdown, the CR, was badly swamped by the border. The border security, the border enforcement is the issue that swamps everything else. And you've seen in the last day what it means to Texas and Arizona. I mean, there is a 60-square-mile colonia growing in Texas. They're now using one of the iconic parks in America, Central Park, to house illegal aliens. Mm-hmm. In Arizona, we hear they're dropping them off on the street. This is the issue that I think the American people will rally around.
Well, what is best to secure that border? Is it to fund it, or is it to absolutely withdraw the money from the Biden regime that has refused to secure it?
Well, the Biden regime is lawless. They think Congress is irrelevant. They think the border is irrelevant. They think the law is irrelevant. So more funding, while we do have more funding for 3,000 more agents, more funding is not the answer. The question is, how do we get the Biden administration to obey the law, to execute the law as they are sworn to do? Lou, I've been to the border twice, and I can tell you the lawlessness is real. The U.S. side at midnight was littered with the wristbands of people that had paid the cartels $8,000, $10,000, $12,000 to come across. It is an open border regardless of what Mayorkas says. That is the policy of the Biden administration.
Well, part of the issue here then is why would we? To me, as you're speaking, and by the way, I would agree with you. Why fund an agency like the Border Patrol or a department like Homeland Security? Why fund it at all when it is a lawless, empty charade of a government agency? This is just crazy what's going on in this country, and the American people. They're not woke, but they are sure as heck awakening to what is happening.
Yeah, I mean, that's the discussion we're having. If we get H.R. 2 minus E-Verify, if we got a strong H.R. 2, which was our strong border bill, put into a bill, whatever, then we have the issue, if we defund it, how are they going to execute it? But I believe that this administration will only respond to funding, cuts in funding, taking away their money. I think that's the only thing they will respond to. They don't respond to subpoenas. Their secretaries come in front of our our committees and basically lie to the American people? How do you get them to execute the law? That's the question.
Well, I agree with you 100%. I wouldn't even begin with a position of whether or not I was going to shut down the government if I were in Congress. I would say, why in the world should I not shut down the government? It's doing nothing for the American people, and it's destroying this country. You're talking about the border. I mean, watching a little child in New York who was overdosed in his daycare because of fentanyl. And Eric Adams, the mayor, he's almost weeping. This is the same sorry, silly little Marxist dim who wants to be a sanctuary city, and now he doesn't understand why his city is filled with fentanyl, sex trafficking, and outright chaos. Every other state in the country almost every other state is feeling the same thing. We're talking with Congressman Keith Self. We're coming right back after these quick words. Please stay with us.
For some, better healthcare can seem out of reach. But did you know that for those who are eligible, there is quality health insurance available for low or no cost? As your partner in health, Priority Partners offers Maryland residents benefits such as doctor visits, prescriptions, dental and vision care, support for new and pregnant mothers, and even special help for chronic conditions. Find out if you qualify for health coverage from Priority Partners. Visit yourhealthpartner.com. Priority Partners Health Choice is a program of the Maryland Department of Health.
We're back. We're talking with Congressman Keith Self. And Keith, I want to just turn to you to ask you, what's it going to take for the conference to come together around principles and the purpose of absolutely securing the border, returning this country to normalcy, and protecting the republic itself?
Well, the first thing we've got to do is pass the appropriations bills at some level, because the government will be funded at some point, at some level. The next big fight we have once we get through this is with the Senate, because the Senate already tells us they want to spend more money. So we need to tighten our seatbelts. We need to learn to say no. We need to find a way through, which to me is passing the appropriations bills before September the 30th. I want to gavel in at 6 a.m. in the morning and gavel out whenever we finish. I want to stay until we get the job done. We've got 11 bills to pass in 8 days, and it looks like we're going to spend today but with not passing a bill. So we've got 11 bills to pass in 7 days. That's going to take an effort, but that's what we have got to do.
And what will be the effect of that appropriation bill, and at what level of funding will it be?
That's the discussion. There are two levels. Frankly, at this point, I am more concerned about the policy writers because the Senate is going to bring back a much larger figure in any case. And we're going to have to set down markers with the Senate that we are not going to budge either on the policy positions, the policy writers, or on the amount. Because I will tell you, we must go back to pre-COVID levels of budgeting. We have had blowout years since COVID. These numbers are so inflated, we could probably cut 20% and not even miss it. Now, the administration will make any shutdown, any temporary pause in non-essential services as difficult, as painful as possible. But we have got to go back to pre-COVID levels because we are blowing through $1 trillion every few months.
We're looking at a Federal Reserve that is still $8.5 trillion on its balance sheet. We're looking at a Federal Reserve who's driving up the price of money through the discount rate. We're looking at almost all-time high levels of yields for the past 40 years, certainly. In the bond market, we are looking at punitive consequences here if the fiscal policy of this country isn't brought in order. And I frankly, no matter the best of intentions, and I know, Congressman, that you have the best of intentions, and I believe that most of your conference does, But I don't see how in the world we survive the Biden administration when they can come up with $1.7 billion omnibus bills with the leadership of the Republican leadership of the Senate, cutting deals there. Your speaker comes away with what was we thought would be a terrible $2 trillion budget gap. He permits Biden to have a $4 trillion gap. It's the leadership of your party is out of its mind.
Lou, I want to point to what I'm calling TNT. That's dynamite, TNT. My two examples are President Trump. He's been indicted 4 times, and yet his numbers are holding steady and even growing. Why? Because he fights. And let's look at Senator Tuberville. He is held up since March because DOD is breaking the law. He is held up the confirmations of military officers. Now, frankly, those officers, most of them have been moved into the positions already. They just don't wear the rank, don't get the pay. But he has said, no, those are my 2 heroes in the government today. Trump is holding steady because he fights, and Tommy Tuberville is giving the example that the Republican Party needs. And let me go back to Obamacare. Obamacare changed this nation. I think everyone would agree with that. And after Obamacare, 60 Democrats lost their seat in the House of Representatives. I don't see that same commitment in the Republican conference today.
And the conference itself right now, we learned that Zelensky's meeting with Speaker McCarthy. This is after the Speaker denied his request to speak before a joint session of Congress. Who knows what your Speaker is going to do? And there is talk emanating from the Republicans in the Senate that your Speaker will unite with the Marxist Dems if necessary to move through a budget. Your reaction?
Well, there's a small group of our conference that has said at a microphone that they will join the Democrats to pass a clean CR. To me, they effectively leave the Republican Party, and I think that we need to be thinking about how we replace them in vulnerable Democrat seats for the next election, because that is unthinkable. That is not a governing model. We need to use the power of the purse that we have. And if we're unwilling to do that, then we cannot govern. We've got to learn to use the power that we have in 218. But our conference is so fractured right now. How do we get it back? We start passing bills.
I think that, first of all, I want to say amen, brother, because you're exactly right. And God bless you for taking that position. And I don't understand why somebody doesn't say that in leadership, that if you do step aside from the conference, that you're out of not only the conference, but the party. But the leadership is so weak-kneed and spineless and unprincipled that I don't know I don't know how you extricate the country from what is the problem of the fractured Republican Party. Were it unified on the issues and the values, we could have in prosperity, peace, or even a defense bill. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that we're talking inside Washington baseball right now, Lou. That goes back to my point about the frustration around the country. A major conservative leader here in the city spends a lot of his time outside the city, and he tells me that he sees this movement. I hear it from members of Congress. Our people are so frustrated with the federal government. They are going to lead this movement, not the politicians here in Washington, D.C. We need to be encouraging them. We need to be supporting them. But frankly, I think the people were going to have to speak to this issue before it's resolved, not the politicians in Washington.
We're talking with Congressman Keith Self. We're coming right back after this quick message. And when we return, we'll be talking about the congressman's view of what is the solution and what will happen over the next 8 days. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're back. We're joined by Congressman Keith Self. It is so nice to hear a voice of reason and principle, and your thinking for a conference that desperately needs your thinking. Give us your sense of what you think the next steps are and what will happen. Not what should, but what you think will happen.
I honestly don't know, Lou, but I will tell you, I heard the green shoots of desperation last night in the conference that we must start passing bills. Well, that may have been in danger during our vote this morning, and I understand that. But I think that's what causes people to put aside their differences and say we've got to do something. And I think passing bills is our strongest position with the Senate. Our conference is starved for leadership. There is no doubt about it. But last night in conference, I heard some people step up and start giving leadership points. And frankly, my military background tells me that in times of danger, in times of intense danger, unexpected leaders do step forward. They do start offering leadership because the survival of the unit depends on it. And I started to see those green shoots last night, and I hope that those are encouraged. And frankly, I want to see some people step forward and provide that leadership to our conference that we need, because we are starved for it.
Can you name names here?
No, I prefer not. That's up to the people involved. But again, I was encouraged last night because we need that leadership. People that have been here, that they've been through the trenches, they understand just how desperate our situation is. I'm hoping they step forward.
So as I look at what's going on in this conference, and I hearken back to the mid-'90s with Newt Gingrich when he was speaker, and much came from that rebellion. 2010, a small rebellion, but poorly managed, and some of it was astroturf, despite what some of the Tea Party organizations said. They became basically the property of the Republican establishment party. I personally do not see a way forward if you continue to fund the Biden administration. It is corrupt. And here's my thinking. I'd like you to tell me what's wrong with it. The Biden administration is thoroughly and pervasively corrupt throughout the entire federal government. They have turned every policy choice that they've made against the United States and Americans. And to not meet them through the investigative committees, as well as standing your ground on financing more madness from the Marxists, I don't know where you go, irrespective of leadership. Your thoughts?
Well, if you go back to that era, remember that Bill Clinton was under threat of impeachment when he bent. And I think that is a possibility that we need to move also as quickly as we can with the impeachment inquiry. We are finding real substantive evidence of the Biden crime family. We also need to be moving that forward, because that might help us. Of course, time is short. We're not talking about the next 8 days there. But that is something, and I think you're right, Lou. This will take severe changes in leadership, and I would like to challenge our leadership, our entire leadership, starting with the speaker. We have a tremendous opportunity to lead in the next 8 days. If our leadership will simply buckle down, lead this conference rather than asking what everybody wants, we need to pass these bills. I will tell you, impeachment in my district was 76% in our recent telephone town hall. 76%
Right.
think we ought to be moving forward with impeachment.
Well, I think most Americans agree based on the polling, certainly not including the Democratic votes. But we also know that 70% of all voters understand that the political persecution of Donald Trump is politically motivated. There is no, I truly believe there's no misinformation, disinformation at all out in the public about what is going on in this country. And they're sick of it. And I agree with you. This movement is about moving this government to a level it hasn't been in decades. Congressman, we really appreciate you being with us, and we know you've got some very tough issues to deal with here, you and your entire conference. We wish you the best of luck, and we always give our guests the last word here, Congressman. So if you will, your concluding thoughts.
Well, Republicans always want to fight the next battle. Our next battle is now. We've got to find a way through this, or our republic is in danger. And I want to just encourage your listeners to contact your elected officials. It makes a difference. Contact them again, contact every one of them. It makes a difference. And I just encourage your leaders, your listeners, that a republic can only survive with an informed and engaged citizenry, and we cannot give up. This is not a football game where the last 2 minutes, there is no fourth quarter. There is no last 2 minutes. We keep fighting.